Hello and welcome to this episode of Mainline Connect, the show where we try to help you with your networking. We interview local folks and we highlight a couple local events that we think you should know about in the area. My guest today is Katy O'Gara of Table Tours. Welcome.
Thank you.
So our networking topic we're going to start with today is, what do you do with all those business cards? We all go to a lot of networking events, and I'm still guilty of this myself. Sometimes you get to the end of a week or a month, or depending on how many events you go to, and at the bottom of your purse or your briefcase, you just have a big pile of cards, and you start to wonder, who are all these people and why do I have their cards? So what we want to do is make sure that you avoid that, because the benefit of going to networking events is making true connections that you can build on, and having a number of cards in your bag at the end of the week or the month and you don't remember who the people are is not really benefiting you and the time that you've spent at those events. So what are some tips? There's no right answer to this, but whatever works for you, can help you make those connections and build on them and remember why you wanted to follow up with people and connect in the first place. So when I go to events, I've definitely seen people who will take notes on the cards right there so they can remember some things about people, why they wanted to follow up with them, or maybe something about the conversation they had, or maybe something they said they'd follow up with. Maybe they said they'd send them some information about another event. So they'll take notes right on the card so that when they come home, they'll remember and they don't have to think about what it was that they had to remember. I find I can't really do that and still hold, easy conversations while I'm taking notes. So for me, that's not a tip that works, but I think for a lot of people, that's something that really helps them. Another thing you can do is just make sure you start separating your cards in some way. So again, there's no right answer to this, but I've seen people take rubber bands and take the cards from one event, rubber band them up, and put like a Post-it on it that says, this was from the chamber event on September 9th, and this other set of cards with this rubber band is from an event on September 20th. And that way, when you start to go back and follow up with people, you at least remember what event you met them at. So that's, step one in the right direction. And another thing is some people have really detailed systems in place where they can use an online CRM or some other software system where they can manage all their contacts, and that's certainly an option too. Another tip that I'm just thinking of as we're talking is LinkedIn. You can actually there's something on LinkedIn where you can talk about your relationship with people. There's a little star, and you can actually put in there almost like secret notes, so you can say, I met Susan at this event and I've known her for 3 years and she has a dog named Fred. Whatever you want to remember about people, especially for people in sales or something like that, that can be super helpful, because if you're following up with people and it's important for you to remember, let's say, their spouse's name or the name of their kids, or ask about something you talked about last time just to help build that relationship, you can actually put it right in the LinkedIn profile and it'll only be visible to you. So I think that's another great way to kind of manage your contacts and your cards and start building relationships. So Katy, what about you? Any tips for kind of managing your contacts and your cards?
Usually, if it's a really hectic night, I will take a picture of it. And that way, if I forget to put it in my purse or in my little business card holder or in my back pocket, I have it there. And then I'll transfer that into a contact file just on my iPhone. I don't have a fancy app or anything that I use for it. If it's someone that I think I'm not going to interact with right away, I will make a note on the card, and then I keep that in my very professional pile of cards that's on my desk.
Right.
And if I go through that every once in a while, if there's someone in there that I've developed a reason to get in touch with, then I'll create a contact in the iPhone file again. But nothing too formal.
So it sounds like you sort of have a little bit of a priority of cards, which I think is also really important.
Yeah, definitely.
Right?
Yeah.
You can't follow up with everybody. You can't have coffee with everybody.
Right.
You can't.
And sometimes they're just not relevant to what I'm doing at that time. But
Sure.
If I have plans for something to develop later, then I don't want to be sorting through my contacts and think, who is that person? And I'll also use the notes part of the contacts in the Mac system, and make a note of why I want to reach out to them, or something that happened that night that I can jog their memory with later when I reach out to them. So
No, that's a great system. Now, I'm curious, when you take the picture of the cards with your phone, do you then throw out the cards?
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I ask that because sometimes I meet with people and they say, oh, I have like 6 shoe boxes at home of business cards. And I think to myself, why? Why do you keep them? Like, what are you going to do with those?
Yeah, usually if I'm able to take a picture of it pretty quickly after I get it, then I just don't even worry about where I put it, and it might get thrown out. I
Yeah.
mean, I always feel bad doing that, but at the same time, I know other people are doing it with mine as well, and it is what it is.
Yeah. I mean, for me, based on what I do with my own business, once in a while I'll keep people's cards to use as examples. I'll go to events and I'll talk about how people can be memorable or make a good first impression. And I think some of that comes down to having a business card that stands out. So if somebody I encounter has a really awesome card, I will actually keep it and then use it as an example in maybe a future seminar or something. But otherwise, I get rid of all my cards too. Because when I go back to the pile, it's going to be meaningless to me. So those are just some tips to help you at your next networking event. So our guest is Katy today. She is the founder of Table Tours. So I guess let's start out with, how did you start this idea? This is a very novel concept, which I love. And, I'm interested to hear, was this kind of your focus area when you went to college? Did you think you were going to be in this field? How did you come up with the idea? Tell us how the business started.
Well, it definitely was not my plan in college. I graduated from the Catholic University of America with a degree in politics.
Okay.
So I kind of envisioned I'd be doing public policy or working for an elected official or something like that. I did that I did a public policy job for about a year after college, and long enough to know that I am not cut out for the corporate world.
Got it.
So I left there and went immediately into cooking. I'd been in the food business my whole life in restaurants or, of some sort. And I just thought, I want to go cook. And my parents, bless their hearts, were like, okay, after they just sent me to college.
Right.
So I went and I cooked for several years in professional kitchens. And then I left that because it's just not conducive to family life. So I did lots of other jobs, catering, marketing, all in the food business. And I always knew that I wanted to do something on my own. I find that I'm more passionate about what I'm doing if it's serving my idea. So I was working at a job that was, bringing in some money. I was contributing to the finances, but I definitely wasn't fulfilled. And I found myself newly and unexpectedly unemployed.
Okay.
And
a lot of us go through in life. Yeah.
It was definitely a little bit of a shock.
Sure.
And I didn't really know what to do at first. And I kind of had like 3 days where I was like, I can't even believe this. What's going to happen now? And my husband, who is wonderful, he said to me, this is your time. You've always wanted to do something for yourself. This is the kick that you needed. Take advantage of it and figure it out. And no more jobs that are just going to bring in some money. You're going to do something and, we'll sacrifice what we have to sacrifice, but I want you to do something that you're passionate about and it's going to make you happy and that you're going to be proud of. So that was a really great boost that I needed. And I initially thought I would do restaurant consulting because I also have my master's in food marketing.
Okay.
But you don't really get hired as a consultant unless you've consulted. So as I was trying to plan all of that out, this idea for Table Tours just came to me. And I live in Ardmore, which has a great little downtown. People work very hard to make it a really walkable, nice downtown, and we have some great restaurants. So I thought, this could be really neat. Like if I get people together and they go experience one restaurant for the appetizer, and then we walk as a group to the next for the entree, and the same thing for dessert, that's a pretty neat concept, and I really think foodies would like it.
Yeah.
And so I didn't tell anybody except my husband. And I went out and I got a graphic designer to do my logos. I built my website. Still hadn't even told my parents because I just wanted it to be a nice package when I launched it. And it was a great success. And, it made me really happy to still have my hand in the restaurant. But also, I found maybe I was using my politics degree a little bit too, because you work with these small organizations that take such good care of our towns. And it was just a nice meshing of everything, of my experience and my education.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, some of what I've gathered listening to what you said is, you definitely had thoughts of wanting to be an entrepreneur, which, I know I didn't in my own life. I never kind of anticipated there would be a time where I'd run anything myself.
Right.
But you did.
Yeah.
You always thought in the back of your head, I want to build something that's my own. And I love that, I think a lot of us can relate to the idea of getting faced with a situation that may not be of your own choosing and kind of having that crossroads where, this is it. And your husband was like, basically, this is it. This is your time. Like, that whole things happen for a reason idea, and deciding, if not now, when.
Yeah. And I literally remember the date that I was terminated, and it hit me one day, like 1 year later. I was like, oh my gosh, that was 1 year ago today. Look at what I've done. I have 3 awards, like a successful business. I'm getting press. And it was the best. I almost wanted to call and say thank you. Like, it was the best thing that could have happened to me.
And it's yours.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you've built it from nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's got to feel great.
Yeah, it feels awesome.
Yeah, it should. You're doing great with it. Yeah. So what about, did you do any market research? A lot of times, you have a business idea and then you wonder, is there really a need for it, for this service? Did you go through any of that, or did you just think to yourself, I think this concept's cool, let's see how it works out?
Yeah, I think because I've always been in this industry, and even when I wasn't technically in it, it's just always something I've been passionate about. So I think I kind of stay on top of trends and things like that. So I didn't do any official market research. Okay. I knew that communal tables were having a moment, and that was part of this concept. And I knew that people liked something exclusive at a place that they might go as a regular patron. And I really thought that this was a nice way to show off the downtowns also. So no, I didn't do any official market research. Yeah. I just had a feeling that people would enjoy this experience and not so much just going out and spending money on a meal. There was much more of an experience since you were at a communal table and you were walking in between. So yeah, I think it was just kind of knowing the industry as well as I do, and then I just really like to help people have a great time. I really enjoy that, so that was definitely part of it too.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to mention, even though you live in Ardmore, and Ardmore has a great restaurant scene, that you do this in lots of other towns as well. It's not just Ardmore.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, what I love about the concept, besides the restaurants, the food, and everything we've talked about, is that, obviously my business is networking, and I love the idea of bringing people together that are, essentially a lot of them could be strangers.
Yeah.
You're meeting for the first time, and then they spend this lovely evening together at 3 restaurants, and I'm sure there's a lot of cool relationships that develop from it.
Yeah, the last one that I had, there was an art teacher there, and he's always looking for places to display his students' art. And before we go to the first restaurant, we meet somewhere in town for a glass of champagne just to get everybody in the same group. And this time it was at an art gallery. And he made the connection with the person on the board of the art gallery who was hosting us that night, and they're probably going to be able to use that space to display their kids' artwork. And there's another person from a charity there, and she made connections with people who were very interested in her charity. And and also just friendly stuff. I mean, people, the first time I did it, people were friending each other on Facebook by the end of the night and giving each other hugs goodbye. And
I love
it's old and young, and they have a great time together.
And it seems like it's a very intimate evening, too.
It is. I limit it to 20 people because I want it to still have I want people to have the ease of meeting everybody, but also, there's no awkward silences when there's 20 people.
Sure.
So
what about, flexibility? Like, it sounds like before this, you had sort of a more regular job, although I'm sure being in marketing and food service and things like that, you don't really have traditional hours, but you do have somewhat more flexibility now that you're running your own business. Was that an important concern for you as far as work-life balance?
Yeah, that was definitely a bonus. I have 4 kids. They're in 3 different schools. They have after-school activities, a house to run, all of that comes with being a full-time wife and mom. So yeah, this was very important to me. It's great that I can get up early and get work done, or I can say to my husband, okay, you're home, here's your lovely dinner, I'm going upstairs, or I'm going to wherever to get some work done.
Sure.
So yeah, it's hugely important.
Yeah.
And sometimes the kids have to come along when I have to scout a restaurant, but
that's okay.
They usually end up pretty happy.
Yeah. So what about successes and failures? Is there anything, you can pick one or you can answer both. What's been a great success or failure that you've encountered so far running your business?
Let's see. I think I would say the biggest success has been the courage to take that leap and make this not only my project, but my job. I don't have another job to fall back on. I have my husband obviously making money, but deciding to take that leap and not having any other income, that was definitely a big leap for both of us to make. But I think that I would say that that's a success because we did it.
Yeah.
Failure, I think maybe my failure has been that I haven't really had an easy time visualizing how to make table tours what I want it to be.
Okay.
I know exactly what I want it to be, but And maybe it's because I have such a hectic personal life that, listing out those steps has been difficult for me. I have started to be much better at it because I find that I'm the kind of person where if I think really big, I just start acting. So that's good. But I have a little bit of a difficult time figuring out how to get to the next phase. But I'm getting better.
Yeah, doing great. So as far, right now the business is just you, is that right?
Yes.
Do you anticipate a time, say in the next year or so, where you see the business growing and having to hire and things like that? Or is that,
definitely. That's definitely in my 1-year plan. I would love to, I think my first step will be maybe getting an intern from like Temple or St. Joe's or something like that. And I haven't really come up with like an employee handbook that would, I know exactly what that person would do. But I don't think I'd make any real significant hires until it's a really well-oiled machine.
Yep.
I want all of the restaurants to know what it is and why they should participate so that it's easy for me to just reach out to them and then get someone else involved, with the smaller details.
Do you have an easy time delegating, or would you say that's more difficult for you?
No, I think I'm probably a better delegator than a better doer. Like I have great ideas.
Right.
And I would really love to tell someone, could you please go do that for me?
That's great.
So I think I'll be fine delegating. I think I'll probably do a little outsourcing in the near future just to get some nitty gritty stuff off my to-do list. But hiring probably a year, maybe 2.
Okay, that sounds good. So what about any, words to live by or mantras that kind of help you get through the day? Let's say if you're having a particularly bad day, is there something you kind of think about or tell yourself, to make it easier for you as a business owner that's on your own?
Yeah. I think kind of tying back to what I was just saying, sometimes I get bogged down in the details and it almost is paralyzing. I'll be like, well, I don't know what to do, so let me go clean the house. So my husband has said to me many, many times, don't let perfection get in the way of progress.
Sure.
So when I find that I'm feeling this way, I just sit down and do something. Send one email or update my website or write something for the newsletter or the blog. And that usually what's the word I'm looking for? It usually gets things flowing. Unsticks the dam. That's what I was going for. It usually gets things going, and then it's like a snowball effect. And the next thing I know, 2 hours have gone by, and I've accomplished a ton of stuff. So
that's a good philosophy. I think it's hard. You can get, sometimes, I'm a list person. So, I'll make the daily list. These are the most important things to get done. And usually the most important things will get done. But then you sort of have these bigger goal lists. And it's great to have big ideas. And it sounds like you have a lot yourself. But I know for me, sometimes I look at the list of sort of the long-term ideas and I think, I don't know where to start. There's just, look at all this stuff I have to do and I want to accomplish. And I'm only one person.
Right.
So I think that idea of just kind of that just do it attitude, just sit and do something. Right. And just move closer. There's that whole expression of every day try to move one step closer to your goal or be better than you were yesterday and everything. And I think it's so important to keep in mind. You can get really bogged down and, kind of the big picture. Yeah. So that's great. So what about, how do you decide, with 4 kids and obviously being the only face of the business right now, how do you decide where to go out and network and how to spend your networking time?
I would say the priority for me is where the event's being held. Sometimes it doesn't matter to me who's going to be at the event because I actually want to connect with the people who own the event or who own the space or run the space. So that's really important to me. And then second to that would be if it's at a pretty neutral space. Second to that would be who else do I think is going to be there. So I get some emails every once in a while, like Eventbrite emails and meetup emails that will say, so and so is going to this event that So, if I see that Jen Robinson's going to this event, it's probably a pretty good event to go to.
Well, it depends on your industry, right?
Sure.
Yeah, I would think for you it would be a lot more important to meet, people who run different food establishments and businesses and spaces and things like that.
And events that are much more social than sitting down and doing serious networking. It's much more social and fun and lighthearted and yeah, so
You want sort of the more open networking, off script
yes,
type events,
definitely,
right? Not
yeah.
the sort of regimented. This is the time we give our pitches,
Right,
and
right.
here's the time. Yeah,
Yes,
I
mine
get
is
it.
much more.
Yeah.
I need to just meet people and talk to them, and not so much stand up and give a pitch.
I think that's really important to know about yourself, because I think, I know when I started my business, you just kind of get out to everything. You don't really know where you should be at yet. You just go to everything.
Sure.
And then you learn, not only your networking style, but who you should be meeting and what makes sense. And, for me, I won't name the organization, but there's a national organization that's very successful that I became a member of.
Right.
That was, I noticed, was too regimented for me.
Oh.
And because of that, I found after a while, I didn't really feel like I was putting my best self forward.
Right.
Because it was too much for me and I didn't want to be there.
Right.
Doesn't mean it's not a good organization or it's not successful. There's certain people that really flourish in that kind of atmosphere, but I wasn't one of them.
Right.
So I think it's important to know yourself, especially for business owners out there, to really kind of take a look at where their strengths are and where they're going to flourish and make connections, and not to force yourself to attend those events that may be good but aren't going to work for you. Right, exactly. So I think that's a really important point.
Yeah.
What about personal goals? Like maybe something outside of your business. Like let's say, if it were the new year and we were making a resolution or there was something you wanted to accomplish for 2016, what would it be?
It would definitely be to get my health back on track. I mean, 4 kids, own business, and part of my business is going out and eating really good food.
Yeah.
It's very hard for me to schedule the time to take care of myself. And my husband is always saying, if you're not healthy, nothing else is going to work. So that is my really huge priority right now, is scheduling that time for myself to plan meals or plan gym time or whatever. But it's absolutely my number one priority right now is taking back time. I know I'm not having any more babies, so I don't have to let that, be my excuse. So, yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
just taking care of myself.
I think that's I know I struggle with that myself. I think we all, a lot of us, especially as women, I think, whether you have a family and kids or you don't, it's just a lot to juggle all the time. And, kind of that whole idea of self-care somehow goes by the wayside a lot of times. And so, really kind of, I've talked to a lot of people and coaches and things like that, and I think I'm starting to realize the idea of making that kind of thing set time for yourself.
Absolutely.
Where it's non-negotiable. The same way you would if you were going to meet with, a potential client or a venue. You wouldn't say, oh, well, that's important for my business, but, I can do that another time. Whereas, if you tell yourself I'm going to go to spin class this morning, it's a lot easier to say, that extra hour of sleep might be better, or my kids, they really need me, or whatever it is, and we make that kind of a secondary thing. So I think that's hard, especially running your own business. I think it makes it harder because it's such a 24/7
I could always find something to do for the business.
Exactly.
Or something to clean around the house. Or
yeah, but no, I think a lot of people, including myself, relate to that.
Yeah.
What about like a bucket list kind of thing?
Pretty much the only bucket list I have right now is I just want like an island vacation with my husband. I mean, we haven't had a vacation in a long time, and it would just be really nice for the two of us. I should say a vacation, just the two of us.
Okay. Doesn't have to be an island, just a vacation without the kids. Yeah.
Well, I would really like the island.
Okay. That's fine. Yeah.
We want to sit on a beach and have people bring us, drinks with
Drinks
umbrellas.
with umbrellas, yeah.
And get massages and, so I mean, there's definitely more, but that's the top of my list right now.
Now, are you planning that at all for 2016?
We have been doing lots. Yes, it will happen in 2016.
Okay.
I'll say that now.
Okay, good.
We've been doing lots
You've
of
put
research.
it out there.
It's out there.
Yeah.
I got to make it happen.
Yeah. I think that's so important, that whole idea of kind of putting an affirmation out there and kind of making sure it comes to be. I think we both do this. Not everybody does it, but I think I've done that on social media. Sometimes putting something out there. Like last week I did my first Periscope.
Yeah.
I didn't want to, and frankly it didn't go well. But I put out there that I'm going to do another one today. Why? Because I knew that if I put it out there, I can't go back. I can't say I said I'm gonna do the Periscope, but not so much. So I think that idea of putting it out there, is so
scary,
important, and especially with something like a couples vacation, because I think, really telling yourself, I have something to look forward to. I have to make this a priority for myself, to have that rest and to kind of, have that time with my spouse to build the relationship that's outside of the day-to-day. You have to make it happen. Yeah. So that's great. So what about anything that influenced you growing up, to where you are today?
My parents are a huge influence. They have worked really, really hard to give us private education and help us through college. And my mom has been in the restaurant industry forever. They're both hustlers in the best sense of the word. She hustled physically as a waitress, as bartender, hostess. She's still doing it, I think mainly because she loves it, and I guess that's where I got it from.
Sure.
And my dad has been at Pico. He just celebrated his 46th anniversary at Pico.
Wow.
And he started as a mechanic and worked his way up, and we call him Mr. Pico. He's very influential in the city and in the company, and he hustled by, improving himself, but also doing a lot of nice things for a lot of people and showing that he's really good at his job and he can get the stuff done. So they were actually just gifted front row seats to that small reception that the Pope had at the airport right before he left.
Oh, wow.
And I just think that right there signifies the success of them. Like they both work really hard, and they take very good care of the important people in their lives, and people who frankly they don't even know that well. So yeah, they're my influence big time.
Yeah, I mean, I've met your father. I haven't met your mother, but even just listening to you talk about the traits that you admire about them and how they've influenced you, I can see so much of that in you.
Oh, thank you.
And so that's a great thing.
Yeah.
So what about what you have, coming up? And to tell people not only how to reach you, give us your website and anything like that, but, where's Table Tours going? What do you have going on?
So I'm planning a pretty packed October and November because that's great weather to walk around town in, honestly. So it's going to be a pretty packed October and November. December will probably just be private events.
Okay.
If people want to celebrate the holidays with, a close group of friends, or for small businesses, it's great to have this as their holiday party.
Oh, that's a
lot
great
of places just go and get like a room at a restaurant or something like that. But, for a small business, if you have 20 or 30 people, this would be a really fun way to celebrate with your employees.
And do something different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that will be hopefully December. And then starting in January, for the real cold months of like January, February, March, I'm partnering with a restaurant in Havertown called Kettle.
Okay.
They are open for breakfast and lunch.
They're great.
Yeah. And I'm going to use their space and work with them to bring some pop-up restaurant nights to the area. So I'm really excited about that. We're going to have definitely like 2 separate series, an up-and-coming series where I'm hoping to get some of the sous chefs who basically cook other people's food all the time.
Okay.
And give them a venue for the night to do their own thing. And then also maybe a visiting chef series where I'll get somebody maybe from out in Westchester or Kennett Square to come in and, show the people in this area something, and then also hopefully some chefs from the city to do the same thing. And then also maybe just a few just more independent random events, like a wine pairing one or a spirits pairing one or something like that.
Great. And it sounds like I'm sure you thought about this, but you're doing it for the right nuns that aren't really so walkable.
Yeah, definitely.
So that makes sense.
Last year for those 3 months, since it was my first year, I was like, oh, okay, so this means I'm not making any money too.
Right. But I love this idea. I think a lot of people will really be interested in coming. I know I will.
Thanks.
So yes, well, thanks for. And then what is your website?
Oh, the website is tabletoursbytown.com.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and then Facebook, and there's a newsletter link on the website. You can sign up, and that'll get you information ahead of time and just some fun little small business highlights and little insider things that I pick up when I get to meet all these fun people at restaurants and in the towns around here.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. I want to quickly highlight a couple events that you should know about. So one coming up is the organization MANA, which is a great nonprofit that's based out of Philadelphia. They're having their 25th anniversary party on October 9th, and it's going to be at the 23rd Street Armory from 7 to 11 p.m. You can buy a ticket as general admission or VIP. They're going to have chef stations. They're going to have Wayne Newton. They're going to have a dance performance. It's a smorgasbord of things that look fun and exciting to celebrate their 25th anniversary. So check that out. And then also a friend of mine who will be on the show later in this season, Renee Patron, who has a company called Events by Renee. She opened a great space on Main Street in Manayunk called Pineapple on Main. And she's having a fall networking event there on October 14th. 5:30 to 8:30, $20 tickets, which includes food and drinks. And I went to her summer networking event. It sold out, and I think it was well over 100 people, and a great place to network. So check that out, and also check out that space for any cool events you may have coming up. And thank you so much again, Katy, for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you for our viewers for watching.